after a prolonged hiatus, undeserved by the heroes of humility, but nonetheless selfishly taken to partake in selfish exploits involving Transams. Beige has kids. He's got a family to look after. He can't go gallivanting out into the wild and just having a good old time whenever. When you have kids, you can't just get up and go and do stuff. It's kind of like a pet. If you leave your dog in your house for a long time, something bad could happen. The dog could get depressed. Kids are like that too. Just a heads up, FYI, if you're thinking of having a kid, start out with a fish. I didn't do well with fish, and I realized I don't know if I could be a dad. Yeah, there's some wisdom that might be sprinkled into this show, and if it is, it's probably accidental. Myself, it's been difficult to get back in front of the microphone. I'll tell you what this show's going to be about. This is going to be about how to maintain your Brodum, the complexities involved. This show will also peer into the ugly world of trying to maintain a pristine bod in a toxic environment. In a nutshell, we realize that life is just better when you hang out with your friends and discuss things and make fun of them. So that's what the show does. I don't want to hype it too much. This might be overdoing it, but I think that it might actually be saving humanity. No, that's not right. It might save your life. You'll see, I think. Or the worst thing that happens is you'll laugh about something you never thought of, and then you'll go on and do amazing thinkings and amazing things. I combine two things and thinkings. You go on to do amazing thinkings. That's stupid.
Heroes of
humility. This is real. These words you are about to hear are coming from real humans on a mission to save the human race from itself. Buckle up while these delusional heroes of humility, aka hoes, attempt to right the wrongs in everyday human behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back, Heroes of Humility, Pierce. Without further ado, I'm back because one of my buddies, who's, say, more of a ride or die, he has been with me through the pandemic. We've worked on cars. He's helped me with life coaching. He goes by Red. This is how we know him. We use call signs in our discourse. Yeah, thanks for coming to the show, Red. I know we used to see each other a lot more. Are you doing okay today? Did you have your morning constitution?
Yes, I sure did. I'm happy to be here, and I'm a fan of the show, and so I would
Nice.
love to be part of it. And like you said, when we used to have our lunches, and I'll just call it a group lunch, just simply because it seemed to always usually be there was a main group of people, and you'd have one or two extras that would come. And we've talked about it before, how it turned into simply getting lunch at work into a comedy stress reliever type of excitement. So excitement, and you kind of almost look forward to actually coming to work. And even though work might be a drag sometimes to do the daily back and forth to work, you actually look forward to seeing your buddies and making fun of each other and poking fun, but in lighthearted way, and jousting with each other.
Yeah, some of you guys did more jousting than others. I think there was people's feelings got hurt, and really that was what made it so magical. Are you taking care of yourself these days? You getting to bed on time, getting your nutrients in the morning? That's why I was usually late to work. Spiritually, I don't know what you believe in. I think you're more of all you believe is in science. You guys, you're a bunch of heathens. But no, dude, how have you been?
No, things are good. I mean, it is kind of strange. It's almost seemed like the world stopped for the last 2 years, and so many things, including Heroes of Humility, had to take a break, just simply because it was hard to get together, and people's other personal lives got in the way, and now we can start bringing back enjoyment of things that we enjoyed before the pandemic hit, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we're still adjusting some sound checks and things. It's not like we got a fancy crew working on things behind the scenes. I would say the crew consists of Pierce, and that's about it. But no, we used to do recordings in my studio, and now we're doing this remotely. It's really not the best for the design, the nucleus, or the DNA of the show, because the idea is that we are talking about social interactions, and to do that, I think it's better in person. But we're using video today. We might graduate to recording the video as well, but we've got some software allowing us to do this.
No, I think it's a good way to try to baby step our way back into it, and maybe bring people to the show that may not be able to come. I mean, I'm not going to exactly say where work lives, but he does live on extremely one far side of the town that we live in, and so for most of us, it's quite a journey to come to him. And now in the days when people have families and stuff like that, it's hard to dedicate an hour commute one way, an hour commute back, and time for a show when you usually do it on your time off because most of us have a full time job.
Yeah, it was easy when we worked in the same zip code. We would just pick a place and all hang out there. But that's what happens, man. I had to do some different things in life. So, but yeah, dude, I appreciate you showing up for the ball busting session today. People's feelings will get hurt again. It'll just be remotely instead of in person. So you don't get the instantaneous gratification of watching the pain and suffering on your buddy's face when you give him a good zinger.
And speaking of zingers, Mr. Beige, I will say that I want to let the audience know I do know Mr. Beige. I work with him closely, and we've talked about HOH plenty of times. And he is motivated, but because he has so many family obligations, it's hard for him to free himself for time to dedicate. But I know he is really wanting to come back to the show as well. And I know he's an integral part of this show because he is such a personality. I mean, I think that's what makes I loved hearing about on Heroes of Humility is all the different dynamics. And when we were together at lunch, we have so many different personalities, and that it would play off of each other. I mean, Mr. Beige is a great character, I would say, on the show, and it's really true to how he is in real life.
Yeah. No, you know what? I miss Mr. Beige big time. I send him communications and he's busy. He came over to my house a while back and helped me, did some stuff that only a true friend would do. But he's got a lot of competing things. And being the very gracious friend that I am, I overlook the small thing. And none of us are perfect, especially Mr. Beige. But I love the guy, and I kid that he is actually pretty close to perfect. I don't think any of us are perfect, and that's what the show's about. And usually, I think you know this, Brad, but we talk about something that might be embarrassing at the beginning of the show. We used to do guilty pleasures, but then we started running out of guilty pleasures because we're not really guilty. We live a life of virtue. At least I think I do. Yeah. So now we just talk about things that we observe in life that we think are embarrassing, either that we did or somebody else did. Then we get into our topic. I'll tell you, I had a pretty embarrassing scenario happen to me not too long ago. I'm going into the restroom at one of my favorite places, Costco. It's just a magical land where you can get whatever you want. I know everybody knows about Costco. They don't need a description. But I go into the restroom and this kid is kicking it at the urinal, the middle urinal. We've talked about that before. Geez. There's 3 urinals, and he's trying to see how far back away from the urinal, how far back away he can be and still hit the urinal. And I walk in and I see this guy, and I would say a younger Pierce would have said nothing, right? I would have gone to my urinal and tried to get this out of there because this is weird. This is aberrant, right? And I don't want this kid's excrement accidentally splashing somewhere, but he wasn't taught, he wasn't given any instruction by an
No, no,
elder.
no. See, I know this is why I love these type of conversations because your reaction is cringing because of the excrement, like you called it, you described it, on the floor. And I laughed because I would have a completely different reaction to that. And yours is about the germs. And even the younger Pierce, like you described, said that you would still think that way. In my younger days, I probably would have said, "Hey, I bet you I can beat
You are a youth at heart, sir, but you're also a disgusting hooligan. Now, when I went to the restroom, even as a kid, I looked to make sure that I wasn't stepping on anything that was going to tarnish my pristine white British knights. Um,
you."
I made sure that I didn't touch anything. My dad gave me the nomenclature on how to handle restroom etiquette, so I wasn't talking, looking. I was barely even listening, and I didn't make eye contact. Those are just, it's survival. It's things that you should be told if they don't come instinctively to you. But this kid was standing too far from the urinal. And there's so many problems with this, right? So many. He's already at the middle stall. I would say, son, I bequeath unto you this knowledge. When you go into the urinals, okay, the restroom, you do not go to the middle urinal. You go over to the one way over to the side. Now Red has a son. He's going to be teaching him these things. I know because I know Red is a classy guy. I kid about him being a hooligan. He is a classy guy. Now, what did I do? What am I supposed to do with this kid? He's not my kid, all right? But he needs instruction. He needs guidance. He needs a freaking full-time life coach, all right?
He needs somebody to video this so his friends can see and have proof on TikTok that how far the distance was that he's claiming.
Yeah, you're still back in the land of make believe where everybody wants to show off and compete about how far, but not in Costco. Costco is a classy, the upper echelon of gross national product dissemination.
Okay, then you haven't been there when the early bird seniors get there and they are distributing samples. That is pure chaos. When
Thunderdome.
these seniors, I mean, they take their samples very seriously and they will run kids, grown men, feet over with their shopping cart full of silver pills and, just to get to this sample of a Triscuit. And they've had a Triscuit, but because it's free, they will go through the Thunderdome of hell to get to this
We
Triscuit.
don't need another hero. We don't need to know the way home. Man, Tina Turner, dude, in that well, look, I had to tell this kid something, all right? And it was a little bit outside of my Pierce normal tendencies, okay? But I'm graduating to a more seasoned Pierce, a Pierce that will stand up for justice, even in the darkest, dampest, most disgusting recesses of the world.
Oh,
And
it was
that's
damp, all
where I
right. It was
was.
damp.
Yeah, it was damp because he was missing the urinal, dude. His piss is all over the damn floor. Like, I'm sorry you had to hear Pierce use profanity, but I said, I walked in, I couldn't believe what I saw. And I said, and by the way, this kid was probably about, I'd say at least 10, okay? Maybe 9, but he was in the range of like 9 to 11. Way too old, I say, for this aberrant weirdness. So I told him, I said, really, dude? Really? Now, when I said that, what did he do? Of course, he had to look back. I had to say something, but now he's looking away from the target. I don't know if anybody in the audience ever goes to the range on a regular basis, but one thing you don't want to see people doing at the range is shooting downrange and then looking back. Usually not what you want to see, especially novices. Let's say people, because yeah, there are trainings and tactics on how you want to be able to look around as you're shooting and moving, but this kid, didn't have that training. Okay. And he was just barely hitting this giant urinal. The urinals in Costco are gargantuan. You have to really be a shitty aim to miss.
Oh, that's right. They do go all the way to the floor in some of these Costco's, right? It goes from like probably above your waist height all the way down to the floor, right?
Yeah, it's almost like a 5 foot porcelain statue. You just have to hit it. And then the
Oh,
way Kirkland and Costco decided to make sure that life was copacetic is they had this big backdrop of porcelain that directs excrement to where it needs to be. So when you are so aberrant that you can't even hit that, I say, no, sir. So I told this kid, I said, really, dude? And the immediate, but he tried to look innocent. He said, uh, what? And I was like, he knew. I knew he knew because he stepped up closer to the urinal and he knew that's why I was
it could
hassling him.
have been another grown man and a young child with his zipper down. That also could have been a play and key to the factor of him
Hey, if
wanting to be
somebody wants
closer.
to claim that I'm being a weird creep in the bathroom, I will take it so that this kid learns the proper etiquette. But yeah, it was awkward. And you know what? Shame on his parents for putting me in that situation. That's all I'm going to say. That's all. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I'm going to say shame on those adults that gave life to this poor creature that doesn't know how to use the urinal like a civil human being. He's not, he's going to be a burden on society, and,
And
and,
see,
and
you can
it's a
you can
shame.
tell how passionate Pierce is about
Yeah.
some of these finer things in life. I choose a path of choosing my battles, and this is coming from a person who in college would really take pride in trying to spell my full name on the backyard of a fence and show everybody that I got almost every letter in cursive with urine spelled out perfectly. And I took great pride in that. And usually, I would try to drink a little bit more so that way I had a full bladder to fully, without any breaks, try to complete my name. And or maybe a friend or a girl's name that I was trying to impress, spell it on the wall to
Now, are
show
your
my pride.
buddies are your buddies nearby when this is happening? I will say this, during my juvenile adventures, I may have exposed myself, um, but the age is important that's involved. And if it's co-ed, there is one time where I was in the woods with some buddies, get together, if you will, and there was a large rope tied to a very large tree, and that rope went over a cliff. And what you would do is you would swing on that rope and see if you could swing around over the valley and then come back to the other side. So I did that with my pants down. But this was, I mean, when you're pissing to impress your buddies by writing your name, I get that. I do get that. But this was not that. This was wrong. And this is
Oh,
in
okay.
Costco.
I remember one of my friends. Both of us went to college, and I'm sure both of us had friends that were guys and girls. And I remember one Halloween party that we went to. It was kind of getting slow. It was kind of boring. I was trying to pep things up,
Nice.
and I had a good friend of mine. We're all dressed up, and this is, of course, over 21 party. So people are dressed up in Halloween costumes, but it was at a friend's house who had a children's play set. One of those contraptions that have a slide built in and a swing, and you have to climb up on top of it. It has a small little ladder and things like that. But of course, there were no kids there. So I thought, hey, you know what? Let's act like kids and we'll go down the slide. I went down the slide, and of course I'm a larger person, so I go down the slide and it barely feels like
May I interrupt for 1 second? Red, when he says he's a large guy, just because I want your story to be well understood, this guy is pretty close to 7 foot. Now, I don't know if where he fits in terms of how close he is to 7 foot, but I just see a 7 foot guy when I see him. Like if you go buy clothes or shoes, these guys would bust my balls because I can kind of go in and pick something off the mannequin. Well, that's what they say. I still,
Of course. Yeah, that's a whole different topic about shopping.
Yeah, but I just wanted the audience to know that this guy he's a giant. He's a lovable giant. So anyway, please pardon the interruption, sir.
So I go down the slide, and it was pretty lackluster at that. As you can imagine, a larger guy going down a little 3 foot, 4 foot slide is pretty lackluster. So it didn't get the effect that I wanted. So I was like, you know what? They lost track of what I was doing. So I peed on the slide.
Oh my.
And then I picked up one of my friends and put her up on top of the platform. I was like, come on, go down the slide. We put some stuff to make it slippier.
Wow.
And she did go down. And
oh my.
she got a little damp, as Pierce likes to call it.
Wow.
Of course, laughter and tears from laughter followed, and quite a few people. And she was wondering why I was so enamored and laughing, which just, wow. And then I guess at worst, she probably thought I put water on the slide, or maybe even like dripped the beer on there. But when I told her it was pee, she didn't seem so excited and was trying to figure out how she could get that part of the costume sanitary, which to me actually made it more funnier.
Wow.
And I had to tell some of my friends too, because she was like, oh my God, you got urine all over. But, so some people find it like disgusting and germs. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to bathe it in, but I can find a lot of comedic relief when it comes to that. And so again, it does take two different type of people. And that's why we love Pierce, because he has a very, let's just call him a germaphobe, and he likes things a certain way. And for urine not to be in the urinal, it is definitely conflicting to his beliefs.
I would say that I don't know if I consider myself germaphobe, but I am a phobe against sliding down slides that have urine on them. This is why I didn't go to water parks too much as a kid, because I pretty much just look around and thinking all of these fools are swimming around in urine. Because if you don't think that people go to these public water parks and just dump their excrement in the water, you're fooling yourselves. You're living a life of bliss and delusion. And in some manners, you live a life in that way, but not when it comes to hygiene. Hygiene, sir. And you're a good buddy of mine, but I never knew about your criminal background. This is this really blows my mind. I mean, this is. Were you convicted? This is.
No, my gosh.
Wow.
You know what? And the sad part is that this continued, and so because it became now a competition to try to fill your name out on the back of a wall, or pick a person's name at the party and that had the longest name to get it put in cursive on the back wall. And of course, these were all like probably parents' house, and not their house. Everybody laughed about it. And to be honest with you, there wasn't people saying, "Oh my gosh," or coming back there going, "Really? Where are your parents?"
You knew that you were in a group of people who had a similar kind of jackass, like the movies, Jackass.
I have to say, I take offense to say jackass, because, I would say myself as a very classy individual.
You are. I think that I'm thinking more of the movie Jackass, a term of endearment, like, look at these jackasses that are all sliding down the slide with urine. That's the kind of that, not like jackass, evil person, but lovable, 7 foot tall, serial urinator on slides, jackass, This commercial-free episode of Heroes of Humility was brought to you by Pierce and Red. Come back next Wednesday for the exciting conclusion to this episode. Check us out at heroesofhumility.com, our Facebook page, Heroes of Humility. Connect with us, use the Facebook page. If you have a social situation you would like us to engage, feel free to write us at dealwithit@heroesofhumility.com or on Facebook. If we address your issue, we'll mention it on the show. If you would like to be mentioned, if you want to take responsibility for the aberrant behavior that you're observing, feel free to let us know that, or something you'd like to plug if it's within reason. Special thanks to my homie Red. Thanks for listening. Take care. Be kind.